Despite 6 people losing their lives there, Action Park is not remembered for its death toll. It is remembered for and by the kids that grew up with it and survived it. It is seen as a place where the quote-unquote popular...
Yeah, even people in chat, some of you are talking about this place fondly. Some of you are like, oh, Action Park was actually a ton of fun back in the day. I mean, I guess if you were a teenager, this would have been a golden paradise. Because it's largely unsupervised, you can buy liquor for some reason, and everyone is just having a wild time.
There's nothing in the world like Action Park.
Hi guys, yeah, I think you're seeing some guys jump off the Tarzan jump here at Action Park. It's been closed since 1996. They reopened it on June 14th. I'm here with the owner, Andrew Mulhaville. He's also the son of the man who founded it. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for coming out. What a day we have. It's beautiful here at Action Park.
So I gotta ask you, because Action Park got a bit of a reputation.
That, just seeing that loop, I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Just based on the velocity alone, what if a human being comes down like this and then just stays here? And you're like wiggling your way, trying to get back down.
Some people got injured.
Action Park was the best when we were kids. Have you all been to Action Park? See, I only know the legend. I've only heard of the tales of Action Park.
That was 30 years ago. The world has changed. I mean, when my dad started the park, he was the guy inventing the rides and bringing inventors in. Now it's highly regulated. Everything's engineered.
I love Action Park because it's so beautiful.
You've never heard of it? It is notorious for being the most dangerous water park of all time, for a variety of reasons.
The year is 1976. Gene Mulvihill, the head of entertainment company Great American Recreation, has added a new attraction to Vernon, New Jersey's Vernon Valley Ski Resort. 2 brand new alpine slides were installed to keep business up in the off-season. An alpine slide is a one-person cart ride, in which the rider rides down a hill in a smooth track. The rider has a brake lever in between their legs, giving them complete control of their speed. The attraction had become popular for ski resorts in the late 70s, and Vernon Valley Ski Resort's alpine slide was advertised as an attraction for all ages, claiming, "We've had grandfathers and we've had kids of kindergarten age coming down our runs alone." I also have a picture showing a mother controlling the sled with an infant in her arms. It's that easy. After the success of the slide, Mulvihill went forward with his plans to expand the ski resort into a water park during the off-season. He added 2 water slides and a racetrack, and more slides, a softball field, a tennis court, and a swimming pool were added shortly thereafter. The Vernon Valley Summer Park was rebranded to Action Park, a thrilling amusement park where you control the action. More slides and rides were added, and they began their big marketing push to draw audiences into their new water park.
Just go to Action Park, there's no other park like it.
When it's hot out, this is a great place to spend the day with your family. There are lots of big things for little kids to do.
I love Action Park because it's so beautiful.
It's like coming to Broadway. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Callus, me too.
It's great. These are the most amazing rides in the world. I love it here.
There's nothing in the world like Action Park.
I
The park
love
was
it.
revolutionary. Not only was it one of the first water parks of its kind in the United States, but it also marketed itself as the biggest. It was eventually home to 75 rides, 40 of which were water slides. Action Park was split into 3 themed lands. The first was...
Oh.
Motorworld consisted of 3 types of attractions: land, water, and air rides. On land was the popular battle action tanks. For an additional fee, guests could ride inside tanks equipped with tennis ball cannons. The goal was to shoot the other tanks in the caged area on one of their targets, disabling their cannons for 15 seconds. Those that chose to ride the tanks were allotted 5 minutes to do so, and those that did not want to ride could pay to use a stationary cannon from the outside. Maintenance employees attempting to fix broken down tanks would be subject to fire from the rowdy guests, making the attraction a nightmare to work at. The other 2 land-based Motorworld attractions were the Lola cars and the Super Go-Karts, both of which were kart race attractions. The Super Go-Karts were driven on a small loop. The carts themselves were designed to max out at 20 miles per hour, but the employees found that sticking a tennis ball in the governor device allowed the cart to go as fast as possible, with the new maximum speed being around 50 miles an hour. Head-on collisions frequently sent guests to the hospital, and the fumes from the engines overwhelmed riders at times. The Lolo cars were mini open cockpit race cars driven on a longer track, and they cost an additional charge to ride. Their maximum speed could also be tampered with by park employees. These were also used after hours by the workers, sometimes being taken off the track and driven on the nearby highway. There were 2 water rides in Motorworld. The super speedboats were driven in a small circle around an island in a pond that also had a large population of snakes in it. The guests would often attempt to bump nearby boats, as if they were on Motorworld's other
It wouldn't be Action Park unless it had a bunch of snakes inside the
water attraction, bumper boats.
They're like, yeah, don't fall in. That's all I'll say. Why? It's in your best interest not to. Let's say that.
These were boats placed in a small pool and were designed to withstand guests crashing into one another. These were known to leak gasoline, which once required a guest to be examined after too much fuel leaked on their skin. The boats were also incredibly small, and riders with long legs had to position their feet off the side of the boat to fit. This led to injuries and bone fractures after collisions. Finally, Motorworld had 2 airbase attractions. One was Space Shot, which was a typical drop tower ride and was one of the safest rides at the park, given it was only open for Action Park's last operating year. The second air ride was another upcharge attraction, Slingshot, which was also fairly safe. This ride was a common amusement park and carnival ride, in which guests were shot up on 2 bungee cords and flipped upside down as they flew through the air. There's no doubt that Motorworld had its dangerous attractions, but this is just the beginning of what Action Park has in store. Another section of the park was... Many non-water-based attractions were located in their own section of the park, sometimes labeled the Alpine Center. These included the aforementioned Alpine slides, as well as a bungee jump titled the Snapple Snap-Up Whippersnapper Ride. Originally having 2 jump stations and then later 4, guests could jump off the tower for an additional fee. A skate park also had a short run at Action Park. It was poorly designed, as it was surrounded by concrete and had uneven edges, which led to many injuries during its existence. Interestingly, Action Park also had an attraction entitled the Action Park Gladiator Challenge, partially based off of the popular American Gladiators TV show. This included obstacle courses and jousting matches against the Action Park Gladiators. Finally, Action Park had its own monorail called the Transmobile. This went to the Ski Lodge, the Alpine Center, and to Motorworld. So far, Action Park has proved to be dangerous, but where are the absolutely terrifying rides? Where are the rides that are so insane that their mere existence is unbelievable? Moreover, where are the water slides? This section put the action in Action Park. Waterworld had it all. It was home to the tidal wave pool, a 100 feet by 200 feet pool that could hold anywhere between 500 and 1,000 people. The pool's floor was slanted, and the further a guest went in it, the deeper it got. Waves went 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, and they could reach a height of over 3 feet. This was challenging for swimmers of all skill levels, as the pool was hard to read and the fresh water was more difficult to swim in than salt water. A dozen lifeguards were on duty at the pool, and they would have to save around 30 people on a busy day. The Tarzan swing was a heavily advertised attraction in which guests would swing on a 20-foot cable over a pool. This spring-fed pool was so cool that lifeguards would have to rescue guests that could not swim after the shock of the cold water. This was also a popular attraction for men to pull down their pants or women to pull up their tops for the line of people to see. The appropriately named Aqua Scoot gave guests a sled, with which they would slide down an assembly line style roller coaster, hurtling them toward a shallow pool that they would skip across. If the guest was not in an ideal position, it would get caught under the water, sending the rider crashing forward. There were originally a pair of these slides, each 30 feet long, but a third slide was eventually added. The diving cliffs had 2 jumping bases, one 23 feet and the other 18 feet tall, with the pool below being 16 feet. The pool was also for non-jumpers, some of which were unaware of the cliffs, which resulted in collisions. There was only one lifeguard on duty, who had to work extra hard to make sure that no one was at the bottom of the pool. The super speed water slides, also known as Geronimo Falls, were a pair of high-speed vertical water slides. One of them was steeper than the other, and both were dangerous. Near these was the safer Kamikaze, which was a more traditional tube slide. The kayak experience was pretty self-explanatory, and used underwater fans to simulate water rapids. This was dangerous, but that goes without saying at this point. A similar ride, the Roarin' Rapids, allowed guests to ride in a 1 or 2 person raft down a similar river. The Surf Hill had riders slide down a multi-lane, multi-hill slide on a mat.
This one, that one is just like, with the low barriers here, like just welcoming people smashing into each other.
Riders could easily cross over to the adjacent lanes and cause collisions.
Yeah.
And the 7th hill, nicknamed the Backbreaker, had an additional hump that would send riders flying, resulting in injury. The Colorado River Ride was another raft ride, this time allowing up to 4 people, and it went through the wooded area of the park. At one point, the riders would come to a fork in the river and had to choose between two paths. The first path took guests under a waterfall and a series of tunnels. The second path included a waterfall and another fork, with one path being steeper than the other. The ride also included a foot-tall jump that would allow riders and their raft a short airtime. The Aerodonium was a skydiving simulator that caused injuries when guests would try to stop their falls with their arms. Waterworld also had a variety of other typical water slides and pools that were
Is there a single attraction so far that doesn't injure you? Is there any? He's like, this is probably the safest one, but it's only because it was added right before the place closed down.
Less notable, but there's one in particular that has yet to be mentioned. This is the attraction that made Action Park the most infamous, the Cannonball Loop. A tubed water slide with a vertical loop, similar to that of a roller coaster. It was rumored that during the testing of the attraction, Mulvihill offered $100 to employees who were willing to try it. Test dummies apparently came out of the loop without their heads. When it was open, guests would be weighed, hosed down, and given a set of instructions to decrease the possibility of injury. A hatch was added to the top of the loop to assist stuck riders that could not make it all the way through the slide.
I was right. Like, what happens? You get there and then you're stuck.
Many guests that completed the loop would come out at the bottom, suffering from bloody noses or other injuries, either from hitting the top of the loop or the impact on the way down. The Cannonball Loop was indicative of a larger issue with Action Park, as many of the other attractions were poorly crafted by designers that were less than engineers, and most were designed to minimize cost rather than maximize safety. The rides became even more dangerous when paired with the fact that the park sold alcohol at many of the convenience stands, often to minors. There was even a microbrewery near Motorworld. Many of the guests visiting the inexpensive park came from low-income areas, and did not have the necessary swimming skills to navigate some of the attractions and pools. Action Park also heavily marketed to Spanish populations, but there were no translations or translators for the guests when they visited, so explaining safety instructions was virtually impossible.
You already know that Action Park has the most innovative and exciting rides. The Alpine Slide, Grand Prix race cars, and spectacular water rides. But Action Park means more than just great rides. It means super live shows, fantastic summer festivals, and scrumptious food and drink, including an authentic German brewery. Come to Action Park, because the rides aren't the only thing that's great. Labor Day Polish Festival, September 6th.
So basically, let's combine Oktoberfest with very dangerous rides and see how this works out.
And 7th.
The majority of those employees were teenagers and were not equipped to handle the rowdy guests at the park. So on any given day, you could have an overcrowded water park filled with drunk teenagers that couldn't swim, riding shoddily built attractions supervised by teenagers that may or may not be able to communicate with them. It is no wonder what happened next.
Oh God.
On July 8th, 1980, a male employee was riding the Alpine Slide when his cart went off the track. He hit his head on a rock during the crash, killing him.
Jesus.
He was only 19. 2 years later, on July 24th, 1982, a 15-year-old guest was overcome by the waves of the tidal wave pool and drowned. On August 1st, a mere week later, a 27-year-old guest was riding the kayak experience when he was trying to re-enter his kayak after falling out. When doing this, he made contact with the live wiring that powered the underwater fans. The electrocution sent him into cardiac arrest, and he passed after being rushed to the hospital. 2 years later, in 1984, a guest died on the Tarzan swing after a heart attack, supposedly due to the unexpected shock from the—
You have a typo in the segment header. It's spelled best. The best amusement park of all time. Yeah, clearly. Fucking, it's just like, it's just a death trap.
Cold water. That same year, on August 27th, a 20-year-old drowned in the tidal wave pool.
So
On
what are we
July
at now?
19th,
7
1987,
people?
another guest drowned there, giving it the nickname the Grave Pool. These deaths are tragic, and often overshadowed by the lunacy and legacy of Action Park. Interestingly enough, Action Park was able to avoid many lawsuits with these deaths and many other injuries, due in part to its reputation, and also the lax regulations New Jersey had for amusement and water parks. Great American Recreation was even able to expand the Action Park brand to other parts of the country, opening Pocono Action Park in Tannersville, Pennsylvania in 1980, and Action Mountain in Pine Hill, New Jersey in 1984.
Get wet at Action Mountain. Feel the thrill as you zoom through the black hole. Spin and splash on our bumper boats. While the kids play in our fun-filled kiddie area, cool off in our huge swimming pool, or race around the Grand Prix track. Get wet on any of our action-packed rides at Action Mountain in Pine Hill, New Jersey.
It's awesome.
Pocono Action Park had many repeat attractions as Action Park, and was closed in 1991. Action Mountain ran into some financial difficulties with the IRS and the town it was located in, and was closed in 1986. So why did the original Action Park close? While Action Park and Mulvihill were able to avoid lawsuits with many of the accidents and deaths, the 2 deaths in 1984 stemmed cases that rightfully plagued the park with a variety of legal problems. Mulvihill eventually pled guilty to 5 charges of insurance fraud. He and his associates claimed that the park saw over 1 million guests a year, and therefore the death toll was comparatively low. The local ER, on the other hand, said that they would have to treat 5 to 10 guests on some days. In response to the high amount of guests visiting the hospital, Action Park bought Vernon, New Jersey new ambulances. Despite all of these issues, the downfall of Action Park wouldn't come until 1996, and it was actually due to Great American Recreation's financial issues and not the park itself. On September 2nd, 1996, Action Park ended its final season, still with the hope that it would reopen the next year. However, Great American Recreation's bankruptcy made it impossible for Action Park to continue operations, so it didn't reopen. After this, the ski resort and Action Park were handed from investor to investor, undergoing renovations for 2 years before reopening in 1998 as Mountain Creek. Safety was a priority under this management, and a valiant effort was put forth to distance Mountain Creek from Action Park's reputation. However, in 2010, Mountain Creek underwent a bankruptcy of its own, and the water park and ski resort was sold to the Mulvihill family. 2 years after this, in 2012, Eugene Mulvihill passed away, and his son Andrew Mulvihill took over ownership of the park. 2 years later, in 2014, Mountain Creek was rebranded back to Action Park. The park reopened many of its classic attractions, and started construction on new, terrifying ones. The Sky Caliber was another attempt at a 360-degree vertically looping water slide, although it used technology to enhance safety. From my knowledge, it is yet to open at the park, and there's almost no information on its status. The new Action Park tried to use nostalgia to draw guests back for 2 years, before in 2016 it was renamed back to Mountain Creek, in order to once again get away from the negative connotation of Action Park. Early this year it was announced that Johnny Knox...
They had a fake insurance company that would always take all the lawsuits away from expensive trials? Oh wow.
...would be producing, writing, and starring in a film inspired by Action Park, but it was not shot on location. Death is heartbreaking, especially in environments designed for happiness and joy. Despite 6 people losing their lives there, Action Park is not remembered for its death toll. It is remembered for and by the kids that grew up with it and survived it. It is seen as a place where the quote-unquote popular...
Yeah, even people in chat, some of you are talking about this place fondly. Some of you are like, oh, Action Park was actually a ton of fun back in the day. I mean, I guess if you were a teenager, this would have been a golden paradise, because it's largely unsupervised. You can buy liquor for some reason, and everyone is just having a wild time.
And brave teens hung out. The fact that it was referred to as Traction Park or Class Action Park doesn't matter.
Forgive us. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Hey, if I was like 17 years old or 16 years old and all of a sudden there was like, hey, there's this amusement park you can go to, and for some reason they're fine selling kids beer, I'd be like, yes, please. Yeah, I'll go there.
Because its inherent danger is more of a fond memory to the majority of its visitors. The burns, bruises, and the fractured tibias were a rite of passage for its former guests. You think you're cool because you survived a tame roller coaster at Disney in California or at Universal in Florida? Well, welcome to Vernon, New Jersey. Were you able to survive Action Park?
But my bones. Oh, is that the end? Okay, I'll watch the trailer to Class Action Park.
There's nothing in the world like Action Park.
Baby, let me take you where the action is hot. Action Park.
The story of Action Park is a true crime story.
As you entered the park, you saw this thing, and you're like, this is real.
The engineering behind this, if there was any engineering, was just nuts.
Build it higher, make it faster. People control the action.
Combine that with liquor and anything goes.
There were no rules. For a lot of kids, that was heaven.
And if you couldn't swim well, yikes.
I don't...
Well, yeah, you die. But no, I totally get that. I get the people in chat who are like, oh, I have a lot of fond memories from that. Because, yeah, if you were like 16 or 17, you don't really care about... Like, you feel like Superman around that age. You feel like you're invincible. You can just bounce off walls. Everything's going to be fine. It's not until, like, your first, 2-day hangover that you realize how life is actually kind of fleeting. And that, like, there are dangers in the world. It's usually around there. It's like, oh, man, it's been 2 days. Why am I still hungover? I'm old. I'm 30 now. God damn. I gotta floss.
I think you can understand a place like Action Park if you don't understand the kind of minds that build it.
A lot of people wish they could ignore rules. Gene actually did that.
Nobody would give him insurance, so he created his own insurance company and then insured himself.
It did bring sometimes a criminal element.
I'm 37 and I feel like garbage all the time. Try 3 days, try like 2 weeks. Try a 2-week recovery from a music festival where you went way too hard for way too many days in a row and your brain is just like, you don't have serotonin anymore. Nope, there's not going to be any happiness for you. Not for a long time. You're going to have to regulate your levels on this one.
I don't know how many people died at Action Park, but it wasn't just one person.
Electrocuted.
Decapitated.
Fractured vertebrae. Impaled on the bowl. Had a heart attack. Nobody should ever be the second person to die in a wave pool. Close the wave pool.
The action never stops at Action Park.
I will watch this. I would love to watch it on stream, but obviously, you know, I don't know if it's going to be...
There's nothing in the world like Action Park.
I did get hurt on a ride that was called Cannonball Falls. I'm going down this water slide. I enter the tunnel, and you just hear people, oh, no! Ahead of you, oh, no. So you're like, what's going on here?
And then you see this little piece of light at the bottom of the tunnel, and then you just get shot out, and you just be there in the middle of like the air.
And I'm not kidding when I say you're at minimum 10 feet in the air. It shoots you out the side of a mountain, and you're just like in the sky.
That sounds
You
fun
would
as
think
fuck,
you're getting
though.
on a water slide, and the next thing you know, you're in the fucking sky, man.
You had a bar you had to hold on to and lower yourself to vertical.
And you just drop. And you've got to be free falling for a few seconds, and then you actually make contact.
I've been on
with the water
slides like
slide,
this. So far, nothing
and you go
too
down.
outrageous.
Tops would come off, bottoms would be up around their shoulders.
I'll be honest, like that stuff doesn't really worry me. It's the dry rides. It's the ones where you have to go on a mat and then go down these high-speed slides. Like if you like slip or fall or you lose the map, like the fucking the burns that would occur from that.
People would be all disoriented. Not the most pleasant experience.
You got your first colonic for free, courtesy of Action Park. I would say probably the most pleasant named ride, the kayak experience. I later came to learn that that is the one where someone was electrocuted to death.
There were underwater fans that would help push the water.
Oh my God.
Created rapids like you were kayaking, and somebody flipped out of one of their kayaks, and one of these fans short-circuited, and they got electrocuted.
Oh my God.
Negligence doesn't begin to even capture.
Who in their right mind thought that was a good idea? What the fuck?
That particular death. Ungrounded electricity in a water park. That's the kayak experience. The kayak experience.
When people got to shoulder height depth, we call that area the death zone. To break a new lifeguard in, they'd be assigned to the death chair. And that was the lifeguard stand.
Raw common sense, though. It's like, okay, so we want to have water that moves. How do we do that? Well, there's a variety of ways. What's the cheapest way? We just put fans in the water. Isn't there a risk that there could be an electrical shock and kill people? Maybe. We'll just put the fans far enough away that we don't have to think about that.
Overlook the death zone on the wave pool. And literally the first 30 minutes to 45 minutes sitting in the death chair, that new lifeguard would save 3 to 4 to 5 people. People thought that drowning at the Action Park wave pool was part of the ride.
I remember this guy coming up behind me. He hit my tube right before the tunnel, and I went off to the side, and I slammed my head into the center of this tube that you were meant to go through. Those ride attendants, they spent their time twisting their whistles and then just going, go, go, go. And
well, yeah, I mean, if they're all teenagers, what did you expect? Did you expect them all to be like, the sanctity of life is the most important thing. I must be like an owl or a hawk and watch you at all times, make sure you are okay.
a lot of the time, those
underpaid
tubes
teenagers
would
don't give a
bunch up.
fuck. They were probably
and
drunk.
And then what happens when you get to the bottom, when you have to squeeze into a particular area? People were crashing into each other, slamming on top of each other. One person would be in the water, the next person coming down would
Fubar
then
Park.
dunk the next person and go under. And if you couldn't swim well, yikes.
Staff members started building up the jump by sliding the mats underneath, making it bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually one of the guests got seriously injured. We had been told the person broke his neck.
should talk about that other ride that's right near there. The Colorado River ride. Holy shit, dude. I will say, Colorado River ride may have been the most underrated, dangerous ride.
There was one section where tubes tended to go right up an embankment, and everyone was looking at it expectantly, waiting for them to fly over the side. You would hear people audibly go, oh.
I mean, we're holding on, getting slammed into stuff, things getting stuck. We have to kind of stick our own legs out and push our way up. And then we go past a lifeguard chair that, you guessed it, is empty.
The design was flawed because the Grand Prix cars were right next to the beer tent.
Oh. So at 5 o'clock, guys would come up, they'd get a bunch of beers in them, they'd go down in Motorworld to drive the cars.
Out of all the rides.
It's legal drunk driving. It's the 1950s. I mean, just all over again.
My opinion, that's the craziest one because it's not the ride attendant's fault. You know, you can't always tell if someone's been drinking, and if you didn't stink like booze, they would never know.
Occasionally with the Lola cars,
it wasn't
we would
legal?
get a guest that instead of following the course would decide he wanted to make his own course, that he would just start driving around on the course, drive off the course.
I'd heard the employees figured out how to override the speed governor so that the go-karts could go as fast as 50 or 60 miles an hour.
That's just
Cannonball
wild.
Loop was
Cannonball
an
Loop is number 2?
Tube water slide. You would climb to the top of a series of stairs, and you would ride down the enclosed tube, and at the very end, the tube would go into a huge loop.
And you're supposed to go down feet first with your arms and legs crossed.
And then as soon as you like kind of scoop forward,
the next snap
and
up.
it just takes you. All of a sudden you're going really, really fast. Oh my God, I'm shitting my pants. It was absolutely terrifying. And then all of a sudden you feel your feet go up. And then as I go up, you kind of lose contact with the loop for a second. It just gravity just takes you. You just.
You know, I was gonna say, you lose contact. Like when you hit this point here, at this point, this is just gonna shoot you. He's gonna to bam, and then all the way back down. Depending on your weight category, of course. But like, yeah, that much velocity flying up here and then shotgunned right into this side, and then your crippled, injured body slowly moves down there.
Gravity just takes you. You just kind of flop. The catch pond, wherever you landed, was way too short. You got to the bottom, and I'm like, shit, I did it. I made it. The loop was fun, and yes, it hurt.
At Action Park, the most dangerous ride, probably from sheer amount of injuries, would be the Alpine Slide.
It had a stick, and ostensibly, you're supposed to be able to pull up on a stick as a brake, push down on it to go faster.
It was just concrete. Holy shit. It's just concrete. What the fuck?
But one thing that I learned was very true. These sleds were often broken.
I didn't know it at the time, but the Alpine Slide was made of fiberglass, concrete, and mostly asbestos.
Cement track. It's summertime. People are in bathing suits.
People would come out with lacerations because all their teeth were stuck in the tube ceiling. Fuck me.
And they're flying down this path at full speed ahead. And they would just tumble off.
Yeah, no kidding.
You go up into this lip, and if you didn't know how to distribute your weight when you came out of that bank turn, the thing would flip on you. And when the thing flipped on you, that's when it started to hurt.
Well, yeah, no kidding.
Kid shows up back in the neighborhood, and like he's got a big burn on his thigh and his hip. You assume, oh, you fall off the Alpine Slide? He'd have to correct you. He'd have to, oh no, I had surgery.
Well, there you have it. There's the worst amusement park of all time. I love amusement parks too. I love water slides. I love roller coasters. I love extreme shit. I like jumping on the planes, all that kind of stuff. But so much of that. This one especially. This one, like just the fact that it's a complete concrete tube system. Well, sorry, concrete and asbestos, and you're riding in this little teeny cart, no protection, no helmets, no padding, nothing, with the only thing that can slow you down is a brake that apparently doesn't work depending on which cart you got. And then you'd obviously have to know how to do certain kinds of jumps and stuff to be able to steer it. Oh man, this is just a death trap. And like, if you went flying in this direction, you won the lottery. You're gonna land in a bunch of bushes. You might get a bunch of like, you know, things that prick you and stuff like that. But that's probably best case scenario. Fly in this direction, land onto like an opposing fucking asbestos ring.
But the Alpine Slide was made of fiberglass, concrete, and mostly asbestos.
It's ANCAP land. That's what this is. This is ANCAP land. We've learned. We've learned. The libertarian dream come to life. Holy shit. Oy.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.